Now welcome to another Sunday commentary, where I'll once again sort of be using Star Wars to broach or discuss a real-world topic, and as is sometimes, if not oftentimes, the case with these videos, it's a personal experience that has basically brought it on, and one I'll tell a story about in just a bit. But first, and yes, this will obviously relate to everything, I want to bring up one of the biggest issues or problems I've always had with the Star Wars prequel trilogy, or maybe I should say the Clone Wars that we see fought within those films. Which is that we don't really even know what the two sides are fighting about or over. We don't know what has divided them to a point that it's led to war, and it seems like maybe something we should know. We should know how in a relatively short period of time. It seems they went from a united republic to willing to kill each other over their disagreements. And yeah, we obviously know the very basics here, that the Separatists are unhappy about the way their worlds are being treated, and to put it simply, they want to leave the Republic and to go do their own thing, while the Republic doesn't want them to go, likely because they get some sort of use out of these worlds. I also think we can infer that the dispute over trade routes that we saw in Episode 1 was the start of much bigger problems that led to where we are when Episode 2 begins. We also know that Palpatine, to become Supreme Chancellor, was behind the scenes pulling the strings with that first crisis on Naboo, so we can safely assume he's done it with other issues or problems in the meantime, that he's always subtly or secretly making things worse instead of trying to actually find solutions to make them better. And this is obviously done to create conflicts, to turn two sides against each other, and for him to gain the full and unquestioned support of one of those sides, all in an effort to achieve more and more power or control over those who agree with him and that he leads, until it gets to the point where he has so much blind or unquestioned support that he can literally declare himself emperor, and he gets cheered for it. In other words, I'm not implying there's no reason whatsoever or that the Clone Wars just happened without cause. I'm saying that we're never really told or shown what's at the heart of it all, what those actual or manufactured and manipulated causes for the war were. And I used to think that it was important to know them, to know exactly what issues had turned, again, a republic that had once stood together for 1,000 years or more against itself. It's not like I'm supposed to believe that those in the Star Wars galaxy may have turned against each other for reasons even they don't fully understand, or that they were simply convinced that the other side was the enemy trying to take over or change their way of life, and hence they had to fight for survival. I mean, it's not like people in the real world here would ever hate each other without fully understanding why, and that they'd even be so consumed by that hatred it would lead to violence or the threat of violence against the other side. Which brings me to my story and a recent encounter I had with someone I've known for quite a long time, decades at this point. And there's someone I would certainly call a friend, even though he's more a really good friend of a really good friend of mine. So we're kind of friends by default, I guess you could say. Not that I've ever had anything against this person or any reason to dislike them. It's just that, if not for our mutual friend, we probably wouldn't really know or hang out with each other. Anyway, my good friend recently had a celebration or party, so I ended up seeing this person, this good friend of my good friend, for the first time in several years. And before going on, I should point out that this person, for as long as I've known them, has never been political at all. They're the type of person who would normally struggle to name the Vice President of the United States, not so much because they're an idiot, but because they, for better or worse, could care less about any and all of that. Not that that's an excuse for not knowing the Vice President, but hopefully you know the type of person I mean. However, when talking to this person recently at this party, our conversation, thanks to him, quickly turned to politics or to some of the hot-button issues of the day that you can probably guess at. And this person, who once couldn't name the vice president, and yes, there is a story behind that, which I won't get into, well, they were now very opinionated on political issues, and had a lot to say about certain politicians and anyone who would vote for them. And honestly, it doesn't matter what these issues even were exactly, again, you can probably guess at them, or what side they even took on them, or even if I agreed or disagreed with him or not. I was just stunned to see someone like this had not only taken a side, if you will, but how fervent they were, or how angry they were after a lifetime of not caring at all about these sort of things. And that anger was very much directed, again, at the politicians and those who supported them, almost like they were more driven by their hate for them than resolve in what they believed in. And so anyway, me being me, I pressed them on their position a bit, but not in an aggressive or questioning way, or like I was trying to debate them. I knew that wasn't going to get me anywhere with this person, And again, I'm not even saying I totally disagreed with everything this person was saying, but I pressed them in a way like I wanted to understand them more, to see their perspective better, like I wanted to take their side. And in doing this, it quickly became clear when the conversation moved past just bashing the other side, that they didn't really know why they felt the way they did about some of these things. They just fired off the usual talking points that they'd heard and memorized. And soon enough, I figured out that what it boiled down to was that originally, something had upset them. One of these current issues in the world had affected them on a very personal level. And so they started listening to the side that aligned with them on this one issue. And then it seems they quickly started to agree with them on all issues, even ones they had not cared about before, to the point where they even saw the other side, those who disagreed with them, as nothing more than an enemy that needed to be stopped at all cost. And the thing is, and it doesn't just go for this person, this is a wide-scale problem, I'd say, but it felt like it was more about winning a fight than actually solving or finding a resolution or solution to a disagreement. They didn't seem to care about truth or getting to the actual heart of an issue, but instead it was all about being right. They only cared about victory for their side, even though they'd only just taken a side and would struggle to articulate what that side even stood for. Which eventually led me to thinking, so this is how Palpatine did it. This is how he started a war and conquered the galaxy. The issues didn't matter as much as turning the other side into an enemy over those issues did. His supporters got to the point where they didn't care about resolving anything, or had no desire to get past their differences. They only wanted to win, and to do so by beating the other side into submission if need be, which is always a great way to prove how right you are, to threaten or attack those who disagree with you. And the funny or maybe sad part about the prequels, or about Palpatine's takeover seen in them, was that there was a very easy way to prevent his rise to power, despite the fact that, yeah, he was controlling both sides. He was essentially leading the Separatists as well. And the easy way to stop him was for the two sides to talk to each other, to hear each other out, to realize maybe their disagreements weren't so bad and that some sort of middle ground could and should be reached before it got to war. Basically, the only one who won the Clone Wars was Palpatine. And yeah, don't get me wrong, maybe even if the two sides found a peaceful resolution, Palpatine would have still found a way to take over the galaxy. He is a Sith Lord after all. But all this leads to the problem in real-world politics or with politicians these days, which is that for a lot of them, most of them probably, it's all about staying in power. It's about getting reelected. It's not about actually looking for solutions to problems that might mean compromising with the other side. Because with the way things are, you can't compromise with the other side. You have to be against them at all times and at all cost. You have to win the fight over that evil other side, the other side that they convinced you was evil in the first place. And therein lies the sort of catch-22 that politicians play to their base so much, get them so riled up and for the team in an effort to get their vote and keep it next time, that they can't compromise because they convince them the other side is indeed the enemy. So working with them at all will anger their base and lose their votes, which then means that they'll be out of power, which defeats the whole point or purpose for them in the first place, which is to stay in power. And so now, here in the US, the only time anything seems to happen or change is when one side, or those who represent the views of only roughly half the country, has full control of everything, which then leads to them saying and proclaiming they have a mandate to do anything and everything they want, to ignore the other side completely, which, won't make them resentful or anything that they're being ignored. And yeah, I know I'm not revealing anything that a lot of you didn't long ago realize, though that also doesn't stop some, if not many, from still falling into the very same trap and giving unwavering support to one side and nothing but animosity towards the other. Yes, even those who do understand the issues, who are very well informed, are oftentimes just as angry, if not more so, and willing to fight than the uninformed. And look, I'm not saying you can't be firm in your beliefs or to stand up and fight for what you believe is right, though I would say if your beliefs are strong enough, they should be able to withstand scrutiny. If you truly believe what you do, you should be able to hear an opposing viewpoint and calmly and rationally defend yours. But if you immediately descend into insults, and to see examples of this, spend about 30 seconds on Twitter, not only do you come off as childish, but you are never ever going to prove a point or change a single mind, nor are you going to find any sort of common ground with that other side, which is what we should be looking for at this point, common ground to work from, to start a real discussion from. Which all leads to a very important question, maybe the most important question of all, which is, are the two sides really that different? Do they really want such radically different things? And if you look at the two extremes, well, the answer is probably yes. But believe it or not, most people are not at the extremes, at least not yet. We're pushing them further and further apart. Though we immediately want to assume anyone on the other side that has any sort of disagreement with us is at the extreme, probably because it makes it easier to hate them, to operate under this belief that they're the worst of the worst. But anyway, the funny thing is you could go ahead and ask every single person in this country in the United States, though it applies for many other countries as well, if all people deserve a fair and equal shot at happiness and prosperity in this life, and the vast, vast majority of people would answer yes, and they'd say it firmly and without hesitation, because most people do absolutely believe in this. They consider it a core principle or value in their life and in this country. The problem, however, and if I had to try to sum up what the whole disagreement is about at its very core, it would be that though we all, or almost all, agree everyone deserves their chance at a happy life, we don't all agree on how much personal responsibility individuals should bear for themselves and or for others in the pursuit of that happiness. Or to put it another way, and to way oversimplify it, how much should people be helped by others, and how much should others be forced to help them? Where should the line be between what my responsibility is and what is yours? That is what nearly every single argument at its core is all about. And this is a topic that could be related back to one of the most fundamental ideas in Star Wars, that being balance and the battle of selfless versus selfish. And how do you find a middle ground between the two so that everyone gets a chance at happiness and a good life, while holding no one back from their full potential? But perhaps it's one that could be discussed at length in another video, if that interests anybody out there, because I do think it leads to quite a fascinating discussion. And the key word there is discussion, because that's where we're failing as a society, our reluctance to even hear out the other side. And that's because we've been led to believe that the other side is the enemy, that they're irredeemable, and that they must be defeated at all cost, or we will lose our country and everything we believe in. We have been divided by politicians, media outlets, and others behind the scenes, all of whom benefit from our anger towards each other in one way or another, be it financially or by staying in power. And the only way for us, the people, to win is to stop fighting with each other, to demand our politicians actually work with each other and find solutions for all of us. Because the thing is, even if your side does somehow win, even if you're the one who gets to ring in your leader's victory with thunderous applause, what do you think the other side is going to do? Give up and go away quietly in the night? No, they're going to get desperate and keep fighting, and things will likely only get worse until again we realize we are all in this together. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think about anything and everything I had to say here. So leave a comment below and let's talk. And until next time, thanks for watching.